Hey there friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and I've got another Destiny 2 build video for you guys, this time focusing on the brand new Titan exotic Pyrogale Gauntlets. These things are hilarious. They can be meta or they can be a lot of fun. A little bit of both as well, so I'm going to explain the difference between the most meta build and the shenanigans build that I'm running in just a little bit, but yeah, these things are great. First off, the armor perk Percussive Flames modifies Burning Maul into a single high damage slam of your hammer that creates 5 Cyclones of Flame. Consecration Second Slam creates a Cyclone of Flame as well. Now, the thing I like about this, similar to Celestial Nighthawk on the Golden Gun Hunter, you pop your super and you roam around with your hammer for a while, and then finally when you decide to slam it, that's when you get a single use out of it instead of multiple slams like normal with the standard Burning Maul. Obviously, you have to run Burning Maul with this. Run whatever class ability you want, whatever jump you want, all that kind of stuff does not matter. You're also going to run Throwing Hammer. Now, this is going to be for one of two reasons. First off, if you're using the Throwing Hammer and not Consecration, but then two, it's also got the lowest cooldown for Consecration as well. Then we've got Firebolt Grenades. I just like this because it scorches a lot of enemies, which really helps out with Consecration as well. Here's where it gets interesting. I personally will always run Soul Invictus. The sunspots are absolutely huge and come in handy quite a bit. But now you're going to decide whether you want to run Consecration, which is a good part of this exotic, right? It benefits from the exotic perk, but it's not going to be the most meta. This thing is fun. You can use it. You can blow up a lot of things. It is hilarious. But if you really want to be meta, if you want to do the most damage with your super, you're going to actually swap over to Roaring Flames and get those stacks up. So that's going to be the major difference. If you want to ignore Consecration and that Fire Tornado, essentially, then you can run Roaring Flames instead. But for me personally, like, you can also run Consecration with Roaring Flames, but then you lose the sunspots. So there's definitely some trade-off there. I personally prefer Consecration in everything but like the hardest types of content. I probably won't run Consecration in a day one raid or a Grandmaster, but other than that, I'm probably running it pretty much everywhere. As far as my fragments go, I'm running Ember of Searing. This is the main one because defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. Both of those are absolutely massive. Then we've got Ember of Char, your Solar Ignition spreads Scorch, which is nice. Ember of Ashes, applying more Scorch stacks. And then finally, Eruption. My Ignitions have an increased area effect. This is going to be really fun to see with Consecration. Specifically, I absolutely love it. I was running Monte Carlo. This was purely for, I got the Catalyst to drop, but I was leveling it up, and obviously with a melee build, having Monte Carlo is just phenomenal, so that's why I was running that. I don't have the Catalyst done yet, but once I do that, I'll include that in the build as well. Then we've got Cartesian Coordinate. This does a lot of damage. It is insane. Still with Vorpal to major enemies and bosses. And then finally, I was running Roar of the Bear. Now keep in mind, if you want to do max damage and you don't have somebody else weakening the boss on your team and you're running solo content, you may want to switch over to Tractor Cannon, and then you're going to just see the numbers of the damage that you're doing to the boss explode. It's crazy the amount of damage you can do with the Pyrogale Gauntlets plus the Tractor Cannon, especially if you have the max stacks of Roaring Flames. Now moving on to my mods, I've got Solar Siphon, Power Preservation, and Hands On. Essentially, I want to generate as much melee energy as possible to kind of spam Consecration for my part of the build. Then we've got Heavy Handed, Momentum Transfer, Solar Loader. We've got Solar Reserves, Melee Damage Resist, and Charged Up. Then we've got Invigoration, Solar Weapon Surge, and Elemental Charge. And then finally we've got Distribution Bomber and Time Dilation. As far as my artifact goes, I don't have everything unlocked, but I will obviously run Elemental Solar Orbs here. And then Refreshing Pickup will be huge, as well as either Communal Pickup or something like that. So all of these are very, very nice. You can also run a bunch of the different mods, whatever you want here. It doesn't really matter at this point because a lot of them aren't going to do a massive difference with regards to this build specifically. So this was the only one that's good. The exception is Elemental Embrace. It's very, very nice, and I think everyone will want to run that. So we'll see what happens with once I have all the artifact unlocked. But this is just kind of my initial testing. Now, couple things to keep in mind. Like I said, there's a big difference between the meta version of the build and the fun version of the build for me. You can still obviously have fun with you just throwing your hammer and doing the base version of the build. But for me, if I'm doing the new seasonal activities, if I'm doing anything that is like in Gambit, this is very nice. In regular Nightfall Strikes, in raids currently, in dungeons currently, you don't really need max damage on your super unless you just want to meme around or something like that. So that's why I'm not really too entirely pressed about having the meta version of this on at all times. And again, it depends on personal play style. If you don't really care about the sunspots, you can still have Roaring Flames and Consecration. It'll still work out well for you. But if you need the sunspots, if you think the sunspots are going to help you out more, then keep those, drop Roaring Flames, keep Concentration or Consecration. Or if you don't like Consecration, if you don't want to use it that often, then don't worry about it. It's not a make or break for this. I just love having the explosion from it, the tornado, just the effects of everything. It's just very much fun for me, and that's really why I love this exotic gauntlets. They're very flexible. They can be potentially one of the best single shot super damage dealers in the game. I think it does more than Thunder Crash once you get all the buffs going, which is kind of wild, especially with Curse of the Fallen Stars. So that's pretty insane to me. I've seen some testing. I'll be hesitant to confirm that right now because I know there's still a lot of variables when people are doing testing. And again, it depends on the boss. If the boss is flying and the damage is finicky, with the Burning Maul, then that can play a factor. So there's a lot of things that play. And when someone mentions that this is the meta usage, yes, it's probably true, but also there's caveats there. So you always got to keep that in mind. So I'm going to remember that as I'm making these build videos, because there's situationally good things and there's things that are good universally. Anyway, this was kind of a tangent about that, but overall I think this build is a ton of fun. I would highly recommend everyone chase down these gauntlets, make your own build with this, try this build out if this one is one that you think will be fun for you. And yeah, I'm really loving the new season. I think that the new seasonal activities are a blast, and with the amount of enemies there are, having Consecration up with this exotic is hilarious because there's just explosions all over the screen. It feels like it is tremendous, and I'm looking forward to making more builds. The next one, I just got the exotic gauntlets for the Warlock, so I'm going to try those out next. That'll be probably tomorrow, my next build, so definitely stay tuned for all of that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Destiny 2 content from me going forward. I've been absolutely loving the variety on the channel, but the love for my Destiny videos has been really nice to see. So thank you guys so much for all of that. And yeah, go out, get these new exotics. If you didn't know, the Vex Strike Force is the best way to do that. You don't need to wait for the Lost Sector rotation. So just the last little tidbit. Anyway, my name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one. I'll catch you all later.